Sometimes cheaters will do crazy things to hide their infidelity. When her stolen car report actually led police straight to our driveway. See what I mean? Sometimes the smallest lie reveals the biggest betrayal. Mine started with the parking ticket my wife claimed never existed. 21 years of marriage don't prepare you for the moment you realize your spouse has been living a double life. But let me back up. I'm a landscape maintenance foreman for the county parks department. My wife works in the courthouse records office. We met in our early 20s, built what everyone called the perfect marriage, and raised two incredible kids who both became teachers. For context, we had always been the couple other people envied, never fought in public, shared everything. We trusted each other completely. My wife always said cheaters disgusted her. She would point out affairs in our social circle with genuine disgust. I don't understand how people can be so selfish, she used to say. If you want someone else, just get divorced first. Well, she's right about that. Those words echoed in my head later, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The first crack appeared one morning 6 months ago. I was heading out to inspect the baseball fields when I noticed my wife's car wasn't in our driveway. She had left for work 30 minutes before me, same as always. But her courthouse shift didn't start for another hour and a half. When I mentioned it that evening, she laughed it off. Traffic was terrible, so I stopped for coffee and waited for it to ease up. Seemed reasonable, except that the coffee shop she mentioned opens at 9. Her shift starts at 8:30. Small inconsistency, but it nagged at me. Then came the parking ticket incident. I was organizing our monthly bills when I found a parking ticket, dated for a workday, issued at 2 in the afternoon. My wife's shift ends at 4:30. She claims she never left the courthouse that day. Must be a mistake, she said, barely glancing at it. Those meter readers mess up all the time. But the license plate number was correct. The location was 3 blocks from her workplace, and the timestamp showed she had been parked there for over an hour. I started paying closer attention after that. My wife began working late more frequently. She claimed the office was understaffed, needed overtime help with filing. Except in our jurisdiction, courthouse employees don't get overtime pay. They get compensatory time off, which she never seemed to take. Her phone habits changed as well. She started keeping it near and never unattended. The courthouse records office doesn't send emails after 5 p.m. I know because I called and asked about their communication policies. I told them I was considering applying for a position. Then my wife started mentioning a coworker named Henry more frequently. He was very helpful with the new filing system. He stayed late to help train newer employees. How dedicated he was to the job. She had never mentioned any male coworkers before. In 21 years, she had only talked about the 3 women in her department. Something must be up there. Suddenly, Henry was in every work story. The tension started building in my chest. That nervous knot that forms when something feels wrong, but you can't prove it. I wanted to trust my wife. She had given me no concrete reason for suspicion, but those small inconsistencies kept piling up. The coffee shop timing, the parking ticket she claimed was a mistake, the mysterious overtime that didn't exist, a new male coworker who seemed to be everywhere. I decided to drive by the courthouse during her lunch break. I just wanted to see if her car was there. It wasn't. I waited for 45 minutes. She never returned. When I asked about her lunch that evening, she said she ate at her desk, had too much work to leave the building. I couldn't believe it. She just lied to my face. This one felt different. That night, my wife slept peacefully beside me, just as always. But something fundamental had shifted. The foundation of trust I had built my life on was developing cracks, and I was terrified of what I might find if I kept looking. But I had to know. Not knowing was eating me alive. So I made a decision that would change everything. I was going to find out exactly what my wife was doing during those missing hours. And why was she lying to me about it? What I discovered would make that parking ticket look like nothing. Because sometimes the smallest deception is just the tip of a much larger betrayal. Some people wouldn't make it this far. If they sense something or they don't have concrete proof, they just go by emotions. and that's not the best way. Sometimes you have to just keep digging. I went straight to my supervisor the next morning, told him I was going through some personal issues and needed a couple of days off. He could see something was eating at me. 21 years of solid work performance have brought me some understanding. He approved 2 personal days without asking questions. I got back home early enough that morning before my wife left in her white Toyota Camry. Same routine as always, but now everything felt different. I was looking for lies instead of trusting her words. The parking ticket was still bothering me. 3 blocks from the courthouse, issued during work hours. She swore she never left the building that day, but someone had parked her car there for over an hour. I decided to drive by that parking ticket location during my time off. I was taken aback by what I found. A small strip mall with a coffee shop, a dry cleaner, and a restaurant. Nothing that would scream an hour-long visit during work hours. Nothing that explained why she lied about never leaving the courthouse. My wife handles her own finances from her own personal account. Men, did you hear what she just said? She had her own personal account, and she's married. Men, take note. We have always had separate personal accounts since we got married. We split household expenses, but keep separate money for some personal spending. So I couldn't track what she was buying or where, but I could track where she was going. The pieces were starting to form a picture I didn't want to see, but I had to face the truth. My wife was having an affair, and I knew she was. Things were not adding up. All those stories about Henry helping at work, all those late nights she claimed were mandatory overtime, all those times she kept her phone close and never let it out of her sight. She was cheating on me, and I knew she was cheating on me, and I didn't even have proof. The woman who used to condemn affairs was now having one. The woman who said cheaters disgusted her had become one herself. How did I miss the signs? I didn't confront her yet. I needed more proof than parking tickets and inconsistencies in her story. I needed to catch her in the act, because she would deny everything otherwise. She would claim the parking ticket was a mistake. She would make me feel crazy for suspecting anything, but I wasn't crazy. My gut was telling me the truth. Yeah, never overlook your gut. If your gut is telling you something, listen to it. My wife was having an affair with Henry, and I was going to prove it. That evening, she came home at her usual time, acting like nothing had changed, talking about her day at work, mentioning Henry again, of course, how helpful he was with the new computer system, how much everyone appreciated his dedication. I listened and played the role of the trusting husband, but inside I was planning. Tomorrow I would start following her. I would document everything. I would catch her cheating and get the evidence I needed, because this marriage was built on trust, and that trust was already broken. I just needed to prove it. The next morning, I watched my wife leave for work at exactly 7:45. Her white Toyota Camry disappeared around the corner like clockwork. I waited 15 minutes before starting my own vehicle. I drove to the courthouse and parked where I could see the employee lot. Her car sat in its usual spot near the back fence. So far, she was telling the truth about going to work. But I knew that would change. I positioned myself at a gas station across the street with a clear view of the exit. My phone showed 11:30 when her Toyota pulled out of the lot. She turned left instead of right. Right would take her to the strip mall from the parking ticket. I followed at a distance, staying 2 cars behind. My heart pounded as we drove through neighborhoods I had never seen her visit. She pulled into the driveway of a modest ranch house. The address meant nothing to me. I parked 3 houses down and looked through my rearview mirror. My wife sat in her car for several minutes before getting out. She walked to the front door like she belonged there. It was as if she had done this many times before. She probably has. The door opened before she could knock. A man stood in the doorway, average height, brown hair, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt. This had to be Henry. They embraced on the front porch. Not a friendly hug between coworkers. This was intimate. This was lovers reuniting. I felt sick watching them disappear inside together. My wife of 21 years was having an affair. All my suspicions were confirmed in that single moment. The lies about working late, the mysterious parking tickets, the constant phone protection, the sudden mentions of Henry at work. Everything made sense now. I waited in my car for 2 hours. The neighborhood was quiet. A few joggers passed by. An elderly woman walked her dog. Normal suburban life continuing while my marriage fell apart. At 1:40, my wife walked out of the house. She looked relaxed, happy. I wonder why. More animated than she had been at home in months. Henry walked her to the car. They kissed goodbye, a long, passionate kiss that left no doubt about their relationship. I took pictures with my phone. The evidence I needed to prove infidelity was finally in my hands. My wife drove back to the courthouse. She would finish her shift and come home at 5:30. She would act like nothing happened. She would ask about my day and talk about hers. She would mention Henry helping with work projects, all while knowing she had spent her lunch break having an affair. The betrayal cut deeper than I expected. 21 years of marriage were destroyed by lies and cheating. That's something that's happened to me personally a long time ago. My girlfriend kept talking about a coworker all the time, and she was cheating with him. But men, pay attention. Realistically, I probably had all the evidence I needed, but I wanted more. I couldn't afford a private investigator, so I had to do this all on my own. I needed proof of a pattern. I needed to show this affair was ongoing and deliberate. So I made plans to follow her again and again until I had enough evidence to confront her, or until I decided to file for divorce. Because one thing was certain, this marriage was over. She had chosen Henry. She had chosen Henry. I was rapidly starting to become indifferent. She had chosen to become everything she once claimed to despise. My wife was a cheater, and now I had proof. But something told me this affair was more complicated than simple infidelity. The house she went to after thinking about it sort of looked familiar, like I had seen it before, and that feeling would soon lead me to discover just how deep this betrayal really went. 3 weeks of surveillance confirmed what I already knew. My wife visited that house every workday during lunch. Always the same routine, always the same passionate goodbye with Henry. The same old feeling about the house kept nagging at me. Then it hit me like a freight train. I had been to that address before. 2 years ago, I had done landscape work for the city parks department at the elementary school next door. The house belonged to the school's janitor, a man named Richard who had worked there for 15 years. He was married with 2 kids. I remembered him because he always brought us coffee during the project. Nice guy and devoted family man, or so I thought. My wife was having an affair with the married man, but there was no Henry at the courthouse. She had invented him to cover up her real affair partner. What? She made up a guy? That's crazy. Richard from elementary school was her lover. All those stories about helpful Henry were lies. She created a fictional coworker to explain why she kept mentioning someone. When she talked about Henry helping with filing systems, she was really thinking about Richard. This woman is crazy. When she praised Henry's dedication, she was describing her affair partner. The courthouse Henry never existed. The betrayal got worse every day, but I still wasn't ready to confront anyone. I needed a plan that would expose everything at once. On a Friday morning, my wife seemed panicked. She kept checking her phone and pacing around the kitchen. She left for work 30 minutes early. Something was very wrong. Yeah, she's acting a little weird. I followed her to the courthouse as usual, but instead of going inside, she drove straight to the police station. I thought to myself, what the hell? I'm thinking the same thing. What was she doing there? I parked across the street and watched her rush inside. She stayed for over an hour. When she came out, she looked both relieved and nervous. She drove back to work like nothing had happened. That evening, everything became clear. 2 police officers knocked on our door just after 7. Uh-oh. My wife answered with dramatic concern in her voice. Officers, thank you for coming so quickly. They explained they were investigating her stolen car report. I looked at her white Toyota Camry sitting in our driveway. What stolen car? My wife went into this crazy story. She claimed someone had stolen her car during lunch. She said she parked it near the courthouse and came back to find it missing. She had looked everywhere before calling the police. The car mysteriously reappeared in our driveway that evening. She suspected neighborhood kids took it for a joyride. The officers took notes and asked for details. What time was it stolen? Where exactly was it parked? Did she see anyone suspicious? My wife's answers kept changing. First, she said noon, then 11:30, then 12:15. The location shifted from the courthouse parking lot to the street to a nearby shopping center. I watched her dig herself deeper with every lie. Then the officers asked about the car's GPS system. Uh-oh. Most newer vehicles track their locations automatically. They could pull the data to see where the car actually went. Man, you should have seen my wife's face. She stuttered about not knowing how that technology worked. Yes, she did. The officers explained they would need to examine the vehicle. They asked my wife to sign a consent form allowing them to access the car's GPS data. She signed without hesitation. She thought it would prove her car was actually stolen. Within minutes of accessing the system, they had a complete travel history. The car had been parked at the same residential address every weekday for 3 weeks. During that exact time, my wife claimed to be working, including the day she reported it stolen. The officers asked why she had been visiting that address. My wife claimed she had never been there. She insisted that the GPS must be malfunctioning. Someone must have hacked her car's computer. The lies were becoming ridiculous. I decided it was time to speak up. I told the officers about the affair. I showed them the photos on my phone, pictures of my wife and Richard kissing, not Henry, pictures of her car in his driveway, time-stamped evidence spanning 3 weeks. The officers realized they had been manipulated. My wife had filed a false police report to cover up her infidelity. Someone must have seen her car at Richard's house, maybe a neighbor who knew she was married, maybe a coworker who recognized the vehicle. She panicked and reported it stolen to create an alibi. If anyone asked why her car was there, she could claim it was stolen, but her plan backfired in a big way. The stolen car report led police straight to evidence of her affair. Her own lies exposed the infidelity she was trying to hide. Then, one officer got in her face and told her she didn't appreciate her time being wasted, and even told her, "I could arrest you right now for this." But the police left with a warning. The marriage was officially over. 21 years destroyed by cheating and deception. My wife's final betrayal had trapped her in her own web of lies. Her stolen car report led police straight to our driveway. Sometimes the cover-up is worse than the crime, and sometimes justice serves itself. I filed for divorce 3 days later. My attorney said the GPS evidence and photos made the case straightforward. Adultery was grounds for fault-based divorce in our state. My wife would get far less than half of everything. She moved out the same week, went to stay with her brother who had just divorced himself. She claimed she needed space to think, but I knew she was just scrambling to salvage her reputation. The hardest part was telling our kids. Both our children were adults with their own lives. Our son teaches high school math, and our daughter teaches 3rd grade. I called them and asked them to come over. They could see something was seriously wrong. I showed them the evidence, the photos of their mother with Richard, the timeline of lies and deception, the stolen car report that exposed everything. Both of them were devastated. They had no idea their mother was capable of such betrayal. Our son was angry. He felt like his childhood memories were tainted. Our daughter was heartbroken. She kept asking where she went wrong as a parent. I assured them this wasn't their fault. Their mother made these choices, not them. The divorce was finalized almost a year later. I kept the house and most of our assets. My wife got a car and a small settlement. She also faced a fine for filing a false police report. Richard's wife found out about the affair when police contacted her during their investigation. She divorced him within 2 months. He lost custody of his kids due to his infidelity. My ex-wife and Richard tried to make their relationship work. It lasted less than a year. Both kids stayed in contact with me. They eventually forgave their mother, but the relationship was never the same. Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. 21 years of marriage ended because of a parking ticket and her stolen car report. Small lies that revealed massive betrayals, but I was finally free. Free from deception and cheating. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the best fresh starts. Well, all I have to say is that woman is lucky she didn't get arrested, and not everybody can afford a private investigator. They are expensive. So sometimes you have to find another way. And I'm a big advocate of not having someone interrupt your income. But if you have the time on the books to take a small vacation to maybe see if your spouse is cheating and still get paid for it, by all means, go ahead. But I do not advocate losing income because someone is cheating on you. Trust your gut. If you feel that your partner is being deceitful, dishonest, and you see red flags and you're able to find out those red flags without an interruption in your income, leave them. Life is too short to be with someone who is going to betray you and possibly put your health at risk. Until next time.